From Becky Hammon leading the list of candidates to JJ Redick being considered as a wildcard option. Here's the latest on whether the Toronto Raptors have confirmed their new coach or not. I've got to start with the Becky Hammon rumors, which are gathering pace by the minute. Can you imagine if the Raptors actually go ahead with it? This is the kind of news that signaled the turning point in sports, and for one of the most female-forward organizations, the WNBA, getting one of their very best to lead the Raptors would be a stunning move. As per Sportsnet, Hammond's one of the many candidates in the running to replace the outgoing Nick Nurse, and she deserves that. It isn't confirmed yet whether she's been interviewed already or not, but the Raptors' intention of finding the right man, or in this case woman, for the job will be done after a lot of consideration. You see, a lot is riding on this job for Toronto. It'll be their 10th head coach in franchise history, and with a number of problems up in the air for the organization, there isn't much room for error. Becky Hammon is perceived as a risk by many fans, analysts, and the franchise itself, but the fact that she ended up in discussions along with many other competent candidates is a win too. But she's way too accomplished to just make up the numbers. If Hammon is being considered, it's not because the Raptors are looking for a publicity stunt. It's because she's actually good enough to be the head coach of an NBA franchise. Plus, Masai Ujiri's determination to look for a fresh break might be in favor of Hammon. Yeah, the president has made it clear that he wants fresh ideas and a clean break from traditional ways. It puts some of the other names out of contention, like Patrick Mutombo, who was being considered as a serious pick, along with Jerry Stackhouse and many others. And what better to go about it than appointing the biggest name from the WNBA as the head coach? More importantly, Hammon isn't just a big name. Becky's got a resume that puts many others in contention to shame. Having been a Hall of Famer in the WNBA, Hammon's also spent plenty of time overseas and suited up for 2 Olympics representing Russia as a naturalized citizen. That's big. Then, upon retiring from the sport as a player, Hammon got the best possible job a young and budding coach could ask for, the assistant position under perhaps the greatest coach the NBA has ever seen, Greg Popovich. Then in late 2021, Hammon got her calling from the Las Vegas Aces, and she made the right decision to move there. 2 years in the WNBA, and people close to the legend are surprised that she hasn't already landed an NBA gig. For instance, Dan Hughes, the GM for the San Antonio Stars, said that she's overprepared for it, and her recent results prove that. To be fair, it was a shame when Mike Budenholzer got the Milwaukee Bucks job ahead of her in 2018. He did deliver a championship for the Bucks, so the fans and the franchise can't complain too much. But as it stands, the two might be going for the same job again. This time, though, Hammon should get the nod. Why? Well, to me, it's simple. As special a coach as Hammon is, when it comes to constructing the offense, and her basketball know-how, it's her ability to adapt and the willingness to make those changes that makes her so very special. Just take the example of last season. Before the playoffs got underway in the WNBA, Hammon made a bold decision to shake up her rotation. No one saw it coming, and it was very different to the way she usually approached the games. She moved Diarika Hamby to the bench, while Kaya Stokes got the approval to start. Hamby had been the perfect stretch 4 and had found a lot of success in recent games, but to bench her like that after a rough patch just shows how easy it is for Hammon to make those tough calls. Others close to her talk about how obsessed she is with the sport, always looking for ways to improve her roster, and her devotion is second to none. Of course, that doesn't mean that this isn't a risk for the Toronto Raptors. It definitely is. But not because Hammon would be the first woman to coach in the NBA, because she has no NBA experience. That said, the Raptors did get lucky the last time they hired someone with 0 NBA experience, didn't they? Yep, the unfortunate Nick Nurse. Although Hammon will face some tough competition for the job. Recent reports suggest that Sergio Scariolo has been interviewed for the vacancy. In fact, as per Eurohoops, the Masai Ujiri was in Bologna, Italy, to talk with Scariolo, the current head coach of Virtus Bologna and the Spanish national team. Similar to Becky, Scariolo will represent a major risk and a change in the Raptors' recruitment process, while Becky has the chance to become the first woman to take charge of an NBA franchise. Scariolo will become only the second European coach to sit on an NBA bench as head coach after the failed experiment of Serbian Igor Kokoskov with the Phoenix Suns back in 2019. Reputable Spanish news outlet Marca also confirmed that the Raptors are increasingly interested in Scariolo. To many within the franchise, it makes a lot of sense, because Scariolo knows the organization inside out. He spent a lot of time under Nick Nurse as the assistant coach, and he was with the franchise when they went all the way to their only championship. It'd be a sensible move to appoint someone who knows what it's like to work with that front office. But there's no hurry to appoint a new coach just yet for the Raptors. As per the NBA rules, they need to bring in a coach before the 23rd of June, which is the date for the 2023 NBA draft. And with more than a month left ahead of it, it's not a surprise that the Raptors aren't rushing into a decision. In fact, they've got a huge list of candidates, according to reliable sources. Yeah, Mike Budenholzer, as I mentioned earlier, is another candidate. The Bucks recently let go of Budenholzer after a disappointing first-round exit in the playoffs. Many analysts and fans alike believe that it was a decision made in haste, and the fact that Mike had lost his brother in a car crash during the series played a major role in some of the odd decisions he made. It's completely understandable. If he's in the right headspace and isn't looking for a sabbatical, this might be a great opportunity for the Raptors to get their hands on another championship-winning head coach. Let's not forget that Budenholzer also didn't have the services of Milwaukee's best player Giannis Antetokounmpo for 2 games of the series, and only a person with the memory of a goldfish could forget what he managed in the regular season. The Bucks finished with the best record across the 2 divisions, and if it wasn't for playoff Jimmy showing up big time, it could have easily gone the other way. Fun fact, did you know that Budenholzer posted a win percentage of nearly .700 during his 5 years with the Bucks? Unsurprisingly, it's the highest in Bucks franchise history, so he should be the ideal fit if the Raptors can convince him to move up north. But speaking of recently fired coaches, Monty Williams could yet be the likeliest option to take over from Nick Nurse. This news has been confirmed by the ever-reliable Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN. He confirmed that since Williams' exit, the Raptors have turned their attention toward the former Suns coach and want to bring him in before one of the other franchises snap him up. Similar to Budenholzer, Williams enjoyed a lot of success in Phoenix even though he couldn't deliver that elusive championship. Monty won 63% of his games in the regular season during his time in the Valley of the Sun, and it was the playoff disappointment that got too much for the Suns front office to overlook. Not having to deal with the superstar egos of 3 All-Stars will be a welcome change if Monty takes the Raptors' job. And he's someone who isn't afraid to take responsibility for a poor showing either. That too would be a welcome change. But for the Raptors, who got tired of Nick's constant decline in recent seasons and his failure to acknowledge it. But both of the last 2 shouts wouldn't be in line with what Ujiri said about a change, and that's why a wildcard option in JJ Redick is being pursued too. The sharpshooter retired from the NBA back in 2021, but he's talked about his desire to get into coaching. Starting his coaching journey in Toronto would be a big risk for Redick. This is a franchise that needs an overhaul, not only in terms of their players, but also in terms of making some major front office and franchise-related decisions. But that's the thing about risks. If they pay off, they're wonderful. No wonder the Raptors' recruitment process is broad in its scope. They really don't want to mess this decision up. So from Redick being considered as a replacement for Nick Nurse to Becky Hammon leading the list of candidates, this was the latest on the Toronto Raptors' search for a new head coach.